vida, amor. And Kay Manzella. What's up? Blessings. I am hooking up the sage and the Palo Santo for us. Oh, my sis Christina. What's up, queen? Doing her magic. Guess we're doing our magic together at the same time. Oh. I guess I have this longing for ritual and ceremony because I find that I come on Instagram and I sit in front of my altar and I activate my altar, and although I love to do it solo, I really love to share in it as well. And so it's really cool to have like virtual ritual and virtual ceremony on Instagram of all places in the world. Hi, Ocean Loves Yoga. Aww. What's up, everybody? Anna's here. Good morning. I'm just going to keep it rocking while I get situated. And as you know, when I hear a call from Spirit to connect, I follow. Nowadays, I have learned to honor that. So here I am. It's morning time, just waking up, and felt the tap to connect and wasn't quite sure what wanted to come through. So I just take myself to the altar and see what's percolating over here. If anybody wants to drop in and ask questions or offer any kind of share, that'd be awesome so that we could riff off of it. One other thing that I thought to do was to come on here because I've had a few people reach out and ask me about inner child work. So that's something that I've been kind of brewing with lately, and also just dropping into the initiations of the Dark Mother and working with the Dark Mother, and that's been super alive in me for the past year, for sure. And when I stop and look at my life, I realize that it's actually been going on my whole life, and just kind of unbeknownst to me. So, I wanted to sort of vibe on how those tie together. And then if anybody has any, like I was saying earlier, if anybody has any questions or thoughts, put them in the comments, and let's dialogue on it, because it's always funner when there's more voices engaged in the combo. So before, I've mentioned on here about inner child and doing the inner child work. Hi, welcome. Oh, it's good to see you all here. Good morning. And so for me, I've explored the realm of working with inner child by doing shadow work. And, excuse me, inner child shows up in a lot of different ways, and it can show up in ways where our needs are being met and our needs are not being met. And so a lot of times when we're doing inner child work, we're delving into the aspects where the needs are not being met, and that all lives in our shadow. Let's see. Por la vida, amor said. You said Dark Mother. Can you explain what you mean? For sure. I will definitely talk about Dark Mother. This lighting is really weird. I'm like, you guys know how it is with the morning sun, and then look at my hair. There's a lot going on here today. So yes, let's talk about Dark Mother initiation. Dude, I gotta figure out the lighting. I don't know if that's any better. It's like blinding. So maybe if I scoot closer. Let's talk about Dark Mother initiations, and let's talk about Inner Child. And they're related. They're totally related. And when Inner Child stuff comes up, and it's related to our unmet needs, like I was saying, that lives in the shadow realm aspects of who we are. Layla Delia, I don't know if I'm saying your name right. Hi, sis. Oh, thank you for being here. Love you. Have the most blessed day. I really enjoy your energy, and you bring so much healing and blessings to all of us. So peace, peace, peace. Thank you for dropping in. Okay. Excuse me. Damn. I smoked it up in here, so I need some tea. Smoked it up as in sage and Palo Santo. Alright, so when we're doing the inner child work that's related to unmet needs, we know we're doing the inner child work when we're dropping into those shadow aspects of ourself. Oftentimes, when we're doing the inner child work that's related to unmet needs, it's all the stuff deep in our shadow, and it's usually stuff that we are, like a lot of people ask, what is shadow work? Shadow work is all the stuff that we do not want to share with the world, with people we're close with, or ourselves. And so we hide these aspects of ourselves. It's all these pieces of ourselves that we have disassociated with, we repress, we hide it, we diminish it, we minimize it, we act like it isn't there. We use a lot of things to numb the awareness of the presence of it within us. So a lot of addiction is connected to traumas based around things that we store in our shadow. And so inner child aspects, the aspects of our inner child that have unmet needs or unresolved issues or traumas all lie in the shadow as well. And so the inner child can often be triggered in our relationships or in circumstances. And so I kind of wish that the people who reached out and asked me to talk about inner child would share sort of the specifics of the way that it's showing up, because you can go in a lot of different directions with this topic. But let me see what wants to come through. So let's come up with a specific example. Say you're in a relationship, it's an intimate partnership with a person where perhaps you have some baseline, bottom line needs, and that person isn't respecting them or necessarily meeting or honoring what your needs are that you've made really clear to them. Right? So you set up your healthy boundaries about, these are my bottom line baseline needs. And perhaps one of them is like a loyalty in terms of not engaging intimately with other people. Okay? So say this person doesn't honor that, and they don't honor it perhaps more than once, again and again. And so that can trigger us because a baseline, bottom line need is not being met by our partner. And if we've made it really clear what the healthy boundary is and they're not honoring it, our shit comes up and we get triggered. And there's reasons why we set baseline needs, bottom line needs, and why we create healthy boundaries. And oftentimes healthy boundaries arise from old traumas that we carry within us. So a lot of early life traumas come up And that is aspects of the inner child where the needs weren't met in a really significant way. And so those are related to our core wounds. So, for this person, say this person is a woman in a relationship and her partner is acting with infidelity, right, again and again. And so she has this need of loyalty and presence, and perhaps underneath this baseline need, there's some trauma in there where she didn't experience that in her relationship with her parents. Not in a sexual way, obviously, but perhaps a loyal, committed, solid, consistent presence with parents wasn't there. And so that's a really, really strong highlighted need, is to have this solid, consistent presence that's in integrity with her. And so an aspect of the inner child can get triggered in that way. And so when we're feeling triggered, it's really important to drop in, even though we're triggered and the reptile brain can be going into fight, flight, freeze, right? It's super important to be able to have enough presence in self to take a step back and to drop in and to see what's alive in me right now, like what emotions are triggered up in me right now. And so perhaps for that woman, she's feeling anger, she's feeling rage, she's feeling hurt, she's feeling sad, she's feeling abandoned or unloved, and there's all of these kind of like emotional triggers coming up. And so when we have those come up, we have the circumstance, we have the feelings, and then we drop into what needs are not being met right now. So a need for loyalty, a need for integrity, a need for safety, a need for unconditional love, a need for intimacy, a need for honesty. There can be a lot of different needs that are related to these emotions. And so when we drop in and we look at what those needs are that aren't being met, we can oftentimes, with our core wounds, trace it back to aspects in our childhood where our needs were not met in significant ways, or we experienced traumas which those needs weren't met at that time. Those we call core wounds, right? So oftentimes, this is the interesting way life works. We manifest our adult relationships, or young adult, right? Starts in young adulthood, even childhood, but young adulthood and adulthood. When we're not consciously aware of this way of manifesting the core wounds, we project it out into the world, so we unconsciously call in these dynamics and these relationships to mirror back our wounds, and we can either be consciously aware of it, or we are not consciously aware of it at all, and we're stuck in a cycle of like, what the fuck is going on? And it's just like being in a shitstorm and not understanding why it's happening. So that conscious presence and that awareness and that dialing back and that reflection is the key to looking at shitstorm circumstances in our life and asking ourselves, why is this showing up for me right now? And what is this person or circumstance reflecting back to me? Because it's easy for us when we're not in a conscious, aware space of when our shit's coming up, it's easy to step into a victim role of that person is so fucked up, or this circumstance is so fucked up. And we're like, why me? I'm innocent, And this isn't to blame or shame anyone, because there's nothing wrong in having that sort of victim mentality in the beginning. But eventually, when we sit with a circumstance or a dynamic in relationship long enough, with a clear and open heart and mind, we can start to look into how is this showing up for me? So how is this relationship where this person is being, engaging in other relationships and out of integrity, how is that showing up for me, and what is it reflecting back to me? And so this is something that I have been working with a lot, and especially in the past year. I know, Robin, you said don't worry about my hair. It's like sticking out in a million directions, and it's really distracting to look at. Okay, so this is all related, all these topics that I want to touch on. The inner child, the shadow, and the dark mother initiations. And this is such beautiful work, and it's work that most people shy away from. Thanks, Nods. I just took a shower, and when I come out of the shower, it's just, I don't even know what the fuck's going on, but whatever, I'm going to roll with it because I have hair, and that's just amazing. Okay, so say a very uncomfortable circumstance is happening in life, we're super triggered, we're super uncomfortable with it. When we dig in deep, we can often find an inner child with unmet needs in there. When it's a really big kind of red alert circumstance in life, when the shit hawks are flying and landing, oftentimes that's a core wound being triggered, and that is the inner child being activated. That aspect of your inner child with needs that are unmet. Because the inner child can also be totally activated when needs are met. Like, say you have a spontaneous trip to the park and you take off your shoes and you roll around in the grass and you're laughing hysterically over just having fun. That part of your inner child is fulfilled and the needs are met, and the need for celebration and spontaneity and freedom and joy and expression, those needs are all being met, and it's lovely. So when we talk about the inner child aspects of the needs not being met, that's when we're dropping into those core wounds within our shadow that we hide and we want to repress and we don't want to talk about, we don't fucking feel it, right? There is a strategy to supporting the inner child when it's activated, when we can be conscious and aware enough to go, holy shit, this core wound is triggered right now. Perhaps you felt abandoned by a parent. Either it was emotional abandonment, neglect, physical abandonment, maybe you were abused. There's all kinds of ways where the inner child can experience trauma and the core wounds set in. So when we do, sorry, I hope that didn't cut off there for a sec. We can do it in a way where we access the wise, deep aspect of our highest self to hold that inner child with the unmet needs in the triggered, upset space. Or we can do it more ritualistically too, where we set aside time and we do the work, but we can also do it spontaneously in the moment. And so a beautiful way to do that is to create a dialogue where that hurt aspect of you, that core wound activation, has expression that wants to come through. And so the deepest, wisest, witness, loving aspect of ourself, and we can call it whatever, we can name it and create it whatever we want. Say I want to call mine goddess, right? So the goddess aspect of me can lovingly hold this other aspect of this hurt child within me and say, what's coming up? What's alive in you right now? And it can be an inner dialogue where that hurt part of your inner child can speak, act, do, scream, move, express whatever wants to come through, whatever needs to come through, and you are also the sacred witness. So you can do this for yourself. You can also do this with other people. So you could find a facilitator, a person who's going to hold and really create the sacred container with you. Like, say it was me, and I'm going to play or portray that divine aspect of you, that deep, wise aspect of you that's going to hold the space for your inner child to fully be activated, and we can role play it out, right? So this inner child, that the part of the inner child with the unmet needs and the unresolved traumas and the core wounds lives in the shadow of you. And so this is relating into the Dark Mother initiations that I love to talk about. I love to help people with. I'm starting to understand that this is a huge aspect of the work that I came to do on the planet. And it's so interesting because for so long in my life, I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? For my Piscean soul that's like, this earth doesn't make sense. I don't get it. Everything seems upside down and backwards and inside out. And like, I just felt so lost on the planet for so long. And I've known since I was a mom that is one of probably the most significant contribution I can make to this planet is birthing through the babies and raising them and guiding these souls that will steward the earth in the future, right? And then I've also thought I came to earth, I incarnated to learn how to love myself. And that's something I didn't know how to do for a long fucking time. This is new to me. I started to learn the concept of true self-love at age 33. I'm 42. I'm about to turn 43. So it's almost been 10 years of a journey of what is self-love. What I didn't even fucking know what that was. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what it felt like. I didn't understand it at all. It wasn't a concept that was taught to me in a conscious way. So it was like stumbling through the dark. A lot of my life has been fumbling and stumbling through the fucking dark. And now, I am so freaking fucking grateful to say that the stumbling through the dark was by divine design, and I get the chills just thinking that and saying the words, because this is medicine for any person on the planet who's like, what the fuck? The shithawks have landed. My life is a disaster. I don't understand this relationship dynamic. I don't understand myself. I don't understand why I have this job. I don't understand why I live in this shitty fucking place. Whatever your circumstances that triggers you up, where you're like, what the fuck, I hate this part of my life, whatever it is, whatever chaos you're experiencing, what I've been shown, well, it's been shown to me through my whole life, but it consciously clicked in this past year of doing the cancer journey, where I truly believe and was shown in Vision Quest that this is the work of the Dark Mother. Okay? And so if you have other beliefs, if you have, certain religious beliefs where talking about anything outside of your religious structure, I just invite you to suspend judgment. I invite you to just listen and try on this idea for size. And my languaging might not click for you, but you might be able to adapt it in a way that makes sense with your viewpoint of how the world works. Okay? This is how the languaging is developing for me. And it's all just coming up through experience. I'm still finding languaging for what I'm experiencing. And I'm not saying my way is the way and this is how it is for everybody. I'm just saying there is a phenomenon, I think, that happens on the earth, and I think that there is an energy that facilitates it, and I call it the Dark Mother. And when I say that, I'm sort of referring to Maiden Mother Crone, or some people say Maiden Mother Maga Crone. For me, the crone aspect is the Dark Mother. The crone is often related to Kali and Oya. There's many Hecate, there's many goddesses in goddess worship that are affiliated or associated with the Dark Mother. And so I oftentimes, because I work with Oya and Kali Ma the most, that's how I know her and that's how I relate. I associate the Dark Mother like instantaneously with those two goddesses. And I'll often refer to Kali Ma because people are really familiar with her. And the cool thing about Kali Ma is that nothing is off limits to her. And she's down with everything because she has the ability to purify and alchemize everything on the planet. So she's kind of like Oya, where they're the energy of the graveyard, right? They're the energy of the gates of death or passing. So they're associated with destruction. And for example, Kali Ma is that energy of I'm going to destroy all illusion in your life to distill down to the true essence of who you truly are. And so this all started clicking for me when I was in the cancer journey, especially in chemo, and I was putting fucking poison straight into my body by choice, willingly. Kind of insane, right? And so there are groups of sacred people on the planet who do that work with the Dark Mother will often be okay with those kind of shamanistic practices where they'll take the poison to know it and they'll journey with it into the darkest, deepest realms. And when I did that, I didn't know I was actually doing this vision quest into the fucking darkness, but it was as if the Dark Mother took me and was like, we are going straight into the center of your shadow. Straight into the center of your darkness. Let's go. And she doesn't fucking play. And for me, I have been initiated as a priestess of Yemaya, and she's the mother aspect. Remember I said Maiden Mother Maga Crone. So I work with the mother aspect, and Yemaya has aspects of the Dark Mother, like the depths of the sea. That's who she has that. But there's something different when you're working straight up with the Dark Mother, where she is like pure ferocity, and you sometimes have to hang on for your fucking life. And when I was going through chemo, I was like, fuck, this is like awakening boot camp, dude. Like, my whole reality was coming undone in a very terrorizing way. I didn't know if I was going to live or die. There was days where I felt as if it was going to be my last day on the planet. The chemo was, anyone who's done chemo knows, it takes you into this alternate fucking reality. You have really, really heavy poisons pumping through your body, and it's over and over, and it does all this crazy damage. And just the spirit of cancer itself. And I think the Dark Mother was the one who was like, I'm going to introduce you to the spirit of death. Like, intimately. You are going to meet and work with the spirit of death. And you're going to be initiated, and I'm going to initiate you. And she showed me exactly how she was going to do it, and she did it. It happened. And what I discovered in that experience was being plummeted into the center of my own darkness was something I would never consciously choose on my own, because I was much more into being comfortable and like safely moving around the periphery of my shadow. You know, and of course, like, shadow work's intense, right? You don't want to just fucking dive to the center. You're building a rapport with yourself, and you're building up safety, and it's scary to look in your shadow, so you want to do it in a way that feels comfortable for you when you're doing it consciously and intentionally. But the Dark Mother was like, we're not doing this easing in. We're going to fucking go in right now to the center, and you might not think you're ready, but you are. She took me in, and she was like, here's a spirit of death. Now what? And so she showed me that the root of all fears is a fear of death for us humans. We are infinite beings having a finite experience on the planet. So I truly believe and was shown that the root of all fears that we have is the root of death. I mean, the fear of death. Whether we're consciously aware of it or not. Okay? If you follow any fear back, the thread of it, far enough, you will find a fear of death deep in there. And so working with the Dark Mother, she was like, let's go into that. Let's look at your deepest, darkest fear. Because as a 42-year-old single mom, I was like, I'm not fucking ready to die. I'm not dying. It's actually not an option. Fuck all this. And I was fucking pissed and enraged that all of this shit was happening in my life at once. I was like, fuck this life. I was like, fuck you, God. I was in that space where I was like real resistant. And the Dark Mother was like, come here. Come on, let's go. And so working with that fear of death was actually the peace, like going in and facing my worst fear, the worst fucking fear that I have or had. I worked with it, and she showed me that death of the body is an illusion. So remember, the Dark Mother shreds illusion. She rips it off of you. And she's like, that's an illusion. Because the truth of who you truly are is infinite. But you're having a finite experience, and you're very attached to it. You're very attached to your body, your family, your life, your name, your passions, your dreams, your visions. You're so attached to it. And like, of course I am. I'm a human being. And when we come into these bodies, I call it divine forgetfulness. We have divine forgetfulness because part of being a human is remembering, and it's an awakening of the truth of who we truly are. And so she was showing me, she was like, bam, we're going deep all the way in, and guess what? Whether or not you have a body, you are. And I mean, that's not to say I'm comfortable with, like, I don't want to fucking die anytime soon. Not at all. I so want to be here, still. And especially like, as a mother, you know, as a mother, I want to be here for many, many decades. I want to watch my children turn to adults. I want to meet my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. And I also feel awakened and now devoted and in service to my highest self and to divine source to help as many people as possible on the planet and to help the planet, to help all beings here. So, and I feel like a big part of what I want to share is to help people feel comfortable navigating their darkness and to not be scared of it. And to see it as this opportunity, as this blessing, as this richness, as this part of you that is an uncharted, unexplored territory that every time an uncomfortable circumstances arises in your life, it's actually you calling you into that space. And there are ways we can navigate it in a way that is part of our evolution and growth. I could talk about this for like days and days and days. So, the Dark Mother takes us into uncomfortable circumstances, and I truly believe that when you're having a really big shitstorm catastrophe in your life, it's actually a rite of passage that your deepest self has designed for you, for your growth and evolution, and it's not something that you comfort-seeking creature human would consciously seek out, right? You wouldn't consciously seek out for your partner to leave you, or for your job to fire you, or for your house to burn down, or for your, I don't know, anything. You know, you guys, we can all think of a million circumstances that are uncomfortable, but think about the most intense ones, and think about those times in your life that were the most uncomfortable. And I'm pretty sure when you look at it now, from retrospectively, you look at it, because it's in the past, and you go, damn, thank God that happened to me. Thank God that person broke up with me, or thank God that job fired me, or thank God, whatever it was. We see that there was medicine in it, and that it happened for us, and that it was really uncomfortable, and that it sort of shredded us in certain ways where we needed to be shredded. And so that is the Dark Mother at work. It's a rite of passage. It's an initiation. It's happening for you. You actually designed it for you. Your soul did. Because the soul's not attached to the earthly experience. The ego aspect of us, the part of us that is individuating, the ego, right? It's a human component. The ego makes us think that we are separate from each other, right? That I end at the edge of my skin and you're over there, and we're actually totally different things. When spirit, your true essence knows we're all the same thing. We're all the same fucking thing showing up in different bodies. Okay, so I hope that these pieces are kind of connecting that I wanted to touch on. The inner child, the shadow, the Dark Mother. They're all related, and basically it's all kind of deep shadow work and the darkness, and you, spirit, infinite consciousness, have manifested in the realm of duality. And so as much as you want to stay comfortable and feel like joy and love and peace and bliss and all of those great feelings, that's a reflection of your true nature, right? But here we are in the realm of duality, and there's all the uncomfortable sensations as well. And all of those uncomfortable sensations are signposts to you that you simply have unmet needs. And they're calling you into parts of yourself that you perhaps are ignoring or not loving up, or you're ashamed of it, or you're embarrassed, or you don't even want to fucking admit it to yourself, right? Let alone your partner, your friends, your children, your boss, anyone on the planet. Those parts of you want to be loved and seen and held too. And guess what? When you drop into the shadow and you bring love and compassion into those aspects of yourself that scare the shit out of you, you're actually neutralizing them. So they don't have a stranglehold on you anymore, and they don't feel like they keep ripping you down into the darkness that it's an abyss you'll never emerge from. Because I actually had somebody write to me recently in the DMs that she was saying, sometimes I'm afraid to go into grief or mourning because I feel like I will be submerged and I'll never reemerge. And I've had other people tell me that recently as well too, when I'm helping them do the shadow work. And that's such a common feeling because it feels overwhelming. And the more we've sort of neglected that part of ourselves and hidden it and buried it, the more scary it is. So we can consciously and ritualistically go into the shadow. And I think it's really, really important to do that work. It's really important to create a safe, sacred container to do the work. There's ways and strategies to do it in a way where it won't take over you. Because, again, the fear of death and annihilation is at the root of that. And this scary darkness can be so daunting and terrifying. And here is the key. Here is the magical piece of the darkness. In the center of the darkness, like when I was plummeted into the center, what I found was the blinding brilliance of my inner light that animates me, that is me. So let me tell you, when you go to do your shadow work, if you dig deep enough, you find your light. So, like when you think about the yin-yang symbol, that's real. That black swoop that's connected to the white swoop, in the center of the black is the white. That's real. That's you. In the center of your darkness is light, and in the center of your light is dark. So just marinate on that for a second, and know that all aspects of you are holy and sacred. All aspects of you are beautiful and precious. Even that part of you that you want to fucking admit to yourself. Even that part of you that you want to get drunk and wasted, or eat a ton of food, or fucking have a bunch of sex, or run 10 miles every day to avoid. That part of you that you're avoiding is so precious. And it just wants to be loved. So, with me, all aspects are holy and sacred. And when the shitstorms come, that is the Dark Mother leading you into evolution and growth. So if we can stay anchored in that, we can shift our perspective to look for the nectar in the storm. Look for the medicine in the mayhem, right? Okay, let's see. There's comments. What's up, Merkaba Medicinals? Yeah! Only when we hit rock bottom do we see the light. Boom. That's true. The eye of the storm. Yep. If you don't feel safe with it, who do you trust with your shit? If you don't feel safe with it, okay, that's a great question. This is my response, intuitive response is, why, and you don't have to answer, you don't have to write it here, but why doesn't it feel safe? When you think about doing this, what comes up that feels scary and unsafe, okay? So we're going to drop in and ask ourselves that. I can relate to that. Okay, the second piece is, what would I need to be willing to explore making it safe for myself? And like I was saying before, when I started doing my shadow work consciously a few years back, I did it in a way, I didn't consciously know this, but now I look at it and I'm like, oh, that's what I was doing. I did it in a way that felt safe enough and comfortable enough. So I did a lot of yoni egg journeying with black obsidian, and that was my entry point into doing shadow work solo. So I got a black obsidian yoni egg, and black obsidian is the Dark Mother. Black obsidian comes from lava shooting out of Pele, right, the goddess of the volcano, and going into the ocean. And when the lava hits the ocean, black obsidian is made. And in a lot of ancient cultures, black obsidian is also used as a scrying mirror. So it's used as oracle work, where people would gaze into the reflection of black obsidian and do deep, deep soul work. So I would use the yoni egg to use internally and journey with the Dark Mother. And I was surrendering. I would put the egg in and let her do her work. And a lot happened. And that was what felt safe for me at that time. So, and I worked with coaches, 2 coaches that helped me navigate into the shadow realm. So I would say to you, Robin, what would you need to be willing to set up safe, sacred container circumstances for you to find your entry into doing the work? You know, and really look at, why does it feel scary? And really, really honor those parts of yourself that are scared. It's probably your inner child with the unmet needs that is scared. So what would she need to feel safe and comfortable, to be seen and to be heard? I hope that helps. Scrolling back. Por la vida, it's night for you right now. Where are you? Avocado said, Avocado, are you still here? Any advice on realizing anger? Are you saying realizing or releasing? Anger for me, that's a great question. Anger for me was always off limits and fucking scary. Because I grew up in a house where anger was volatile, unpredictable, painful, scary. So I avoided anger at all costs. It made me feel physically and emotionally unsafe. So for myself, I didn't allow myself to access anger. And this is a great example of inner child. For a long time in adulthood, I didn't access anger or rage. I accessed sadness. That felt safe, a safe way to express uncomfortable emotions and unmet needs. And what's interesting is I manifested situations in my life that were so enraging that I had no choice but to access anger. And guess what? When I started accessing anger over the enraging circumstances, it was like opening the gate for all the repressed anger to come out. And I didn't really know how to do it. So I actually would look to a couple sisters of mine who have really easy access to their anger. And I've always admired women who have easy access to their anger, because we as women are also taught it's not like womanly to express your anger and rage. So I would actually see how people around me modeled it in a way that I admired, or it felt healthy and helpful. And then for me, I physically move my body to process emotions. So for me, I move when I'm angry, raging, whatever it is. And I kind of go into like authentic, animalistic movements and sounds. I'll do it in front of my altar. So for me, I have a sacred container. Either if it's intentional, right? Sometimes it's spontaneous and it's in the moment. So sometimes I'll go in my car and I'll scream as loud as I can, parked, right? I've done that before, where I just feel like this champagne bottle that's shaken up. And I can remember one time in particular where I was out and I needed a safe container to release this fucking rage. So I was driving and I pulled over and I parked my car and I screamed at the top of my lungs and bawled hysterically until the feeling moved through me. And so that's something that I learned in processing uncomfortable emotions is I create a safe container for myself. I make sure I have a safe container and I let the feeling rip through me like a wave. Okay? So if we have feelings come up and we don't release them and process them, they stay stuck in our bodies. You know? So when we allow ourselves expression, and that's why I love yoga and dance movement so much. I love drumming and I love singing because they're ways to express and release. It truly is medicine. So when I say that on here again and again, I fucking mean it. It is strong medicine. I can't speak highly enough for medicine, or for movement, for the drumming, the singing, the chanting, the dancing, the yoga, the breathing. It unlocks the harbored shit in our bodies. It clears us out. It heals us. Okay, Robin said, why do we hold on to that comfortable shit that's so bad for us? Maybe you mean uncomfortable? We hold on because we are often scared to go in and do the work that it takes to work with the uncomfortable stuff. There's a million reasons why we hold on to it. Perhaps it doesn't feel safe to do the work. Why do we hold on? I think that on some level it's meeting needs within us. So I might stay, this is a hypothetical circumstance, I might stay in a really unhealthy relationship. Say it's an intimate partnership, and I know it's toxic, I know it's unhealthy, but there's certain needs of mine that are being met. So that might make me stay. And I might minimize the unmet needs that are longing to be met, whether I'm meeting them or somebody else's, right? So take that example a step further. Say a person's in a relationship, they know it's toxic, they know it's not good for them. They might stay because they have a need for to be loved. They might have a need to have intimacy, physical touch, sex. They might have a need for partnership. And often, also, when you have low self-esteem, low self-worth, you don't feel deserving, you'll also settle for your circumstances because you haven't really tapped into the fact that you're actually worth more than that, you deserve more than that. So we'll convince ourselves, like, there's nothing better than this out here, so I'm just going to stay here. Even though I'm uncomfortable, I'm just going to stay. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm scrolling. Let me go back and see if anybody's added anything else. Okay, Merkava says, when the hidden and repressed shit that has been unconsciously ruling my life is made conscious through shadow, inner child, dark mother, then I am free of it forever? Or like what? There's layers to this, son. I truly believe that as long as we are in a body, we have work to do. And my experience has not been that once I've gone in, I went to the center of my shadow. I faced my deepest, darkest fear. And my work's not done. I if there is some magical thing that's like, perhaps there is, because there have been many realized beings on this planet where, they're consciously staying to be incarnated, and they've worked through all their shit, and they're enlightened beings. I mean, there's many we can talk about. Jesus, Buddha, Paramahansa Yogananda, Babaji, Ananda Mayima, Amma, right? There's many from many different traditions of realized enlightened beings, self-realized, that choose to stay in the body even though they've completed their evolution, and they're like, I'm going to stay here for humanity. For me, I know I still have a lot of healing work to do. I have a lot of shadow work to continue to do. And, a lot of stuff that is still in me, that my experience in doing this work is like peeling layers. It's like peeling layers of the onion. And so as we do the work, we resolve trauma, or we work with the trauma, we help to heal it, we work in our shadow, we resolve pieces, we reintegrate disassociated aspects of ourself, right? And so my experience is that it's this evolution, it's growing and expanding, and we go deeper and deeper and deeper into the truth of who we truly are. This is really fun to talk about today. I'm so excited that we all got to convene here. This is really cool. We have virtual ritual, is what I'm starting to understand it as. And if anybody else has any other questions or thoughts, drop it in there. If not, we'll start to wrap it up. I'm going to offer some sage. Merkaba said, how important is it to have that space for integration? Can we go too deep, too hard, too fast, and get stuck? You know yourself best, and it's interesting because for me, I followed my intuition as best as I could, and my intuition was very warped because of earlier life circumstances. Oh my God, it's saying I have 2 minutes. But if you're not feeling sure, it's good to have a guide or a facilitator to work with who's done the work and sort of knows the realms. And that's why shaman and medicine men and medicine women were always an integral part of village tribal living, because they are the ones who did that work. They know how to navigate the realms, and then they can help other people who are not quite as sure how to navigate it. But when we drop deeply into ourselves, we can intuit and we can know how to start the journey. And if it does feel like you could go too far too fast, you might want to work with somebody who could be holding space for you and has worked into those realms and knows how to support. So I hope that is helpful to you. Blessings. Thank you por la vida. Also for your questions and thoughts. Peace and blessings to all of us. And may we awaken and remember the truth of who we truly are. I truly believe we're on this planet to remember how to love ourselves and to remember the truth of who we truly are, so that we can really show up and do the work our soul contracted to do. So as we awaken, we help the others awaken, and we help restore balance on the planet. I love you all, truly. Thank you so much.